Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and I wanted to cover some of the iPhone SE 2 or iPhone 9 rumors, along with the next iPad Pro and a little bit of the iPhone 12 when that releases later this year. Now, the first thing is the iPhone SE 2. Now, if Apple does what they did with the previous iPhone SE, this one came out in March 2016. We could see the iPhone SE 2 around that same time. And the reason I have an iPhone 8 here is because the SE 2 is rumored to basically look like an iPhone 8. So it should have the singular camera cutout on the back, the rounded sides, along with the 4.7-inch display that we have on this phone. So unfortunately, I think a lot of people are going to be very disappointed because the SE1 was something that people liked because it's very small. So people that wanted a really small form factor with a 4-inch display have this option as far as using the smaller phone, something that's a little bit more manageable for those that have smaller hands, and just in general, something that is a little different than everything else out there, or a little bit more retro at this point. But it looks like the SE2 or iPhone 9, we're not sure exactly what it's going to be called. That hasn't been confirmed, and we usually don't know up until the last minute what it's probably going to be called. So it's hard to say. Apple could change this by the time they release it, but we should see these pretty soon as far as that goes if Apple decides to release them on the same schedule as the previous iPhone SE. So along with the 4.7-inch display, expect the latest A13 processor, and the good thing is expect it to be around $399 to $449 to start. So that would make this the least expensive iPhone by far. And if we can see an iPhone that inexpensive, that could be a really nice thing. Now, it probably will have Touch ID, but there's rumors that they may ditch that altogether for 2020. So it's hard to say 100% until we actually see the final version. Apple can change these at the last minute, but they do have to start manufacturing them in huge quantities in order to get them ready to be shipped. So just keep that in mind. Now, as far as the iPad Pro is concerned, this is the 12.9-inch dummy unit that I have that was sent to me last year, and this isn't a non-functioning variant. It's basically just to give us an idea of what it should look like. And normally I would get these and then they'll release probably within a month or two. But for some reason, Apple pushed this back, and it looks like we're going to have iPads Pro this year, but probably not until later this year. It looks like they're on a 2-year cycle, but we will get 3 cameras. Do expect them to look similar to the iPhone 11 Pro Max, and we'll have 3 cameras, but the little bit of a difference here would be that they'll have a time of flight sensor. So that means the ability to check for depth and things like that, which would allow you to use your iPad camera not just as a normal camera, but instead as a depth mapping device to produce 3D models. So maybe you wanted to make a 3D render of this iPhone, you could just bring the iPad around it and 3D model the iPhone, and then you'd have it in your iPad so that you could work on it here, send it over to your Mac, 3D print something, whatever you'd want to do, you could do that with a time of flight sensor. There's other uses as well for measurement and things, but I would love to see a time of flight sensor on an iPad. I think it makes a lot of sense for things like 3D modeling, since you have a lot of those options on iPad as it is. And then along with it, expect it to be a little bit thicker due to the bending problem of the current generation, the 2018s. And while I personally have not had that issue, expect it to be a little bit thicker or a little bit more durable aluminum to take care of the problem with bending. Now, there have been rumors of a micro LED display. I don't know that that's really ready yet, but I would love to see that. Instead of OLED, we would have micro LED, and I would love to see that on iPhones, but expect the iPhone SE2 to have an LCD display as well. Basically the same as an 8. Now, the other rumor that came out about the iPad Pro is a new keyboard. This is the Smart Keyboard, the current one, and this uses the butterfly switch, the actual switches themselves, but it's made a little bit different. But there's rumors of a new scissor switch version of this for the next iPad Pro. And that means scissor switches like we have on this Mac Pro keyboard, where you can push a button and it just feels more tactile, it's more durable, and holds up better over time. So expect this to sort of transform into that. It may help with actually reducing the cost of producing this since it's a little bit different, and maybe they'll even lower the price. I doubt it, but we may see that. Now, Apple apparently is going to a 4-phone setup per year, so not including the iPhone SE or 9. Instead, they would have a 4 setup option, and what that means is we would have something similar to the XR and 11 along with the 11 Pro and 11 Pro Max, but they would all bear the same name. So instead of having just the 6.1-inch version of the iPhone 11, we'll have an iPhone 12 6.1-inch version, and then maybe a 5.7 that's somewhere between the SE and the 12. So just keep that in mind. They may do this. It looks pretty probable, but we don't know 100% until it's time to release them. And then finally, with the iPhone 12, of course, we're going to see newer processors. Like I said, this is my 11 Pro Max, but expect there to be the newer CPU, the A14, possibly thinner, and hopefully squared off edges, although that rumor keeps getting flopped back and forth. I would love to see squared off edges, such as the iPhone 5 here. I would love to see this carried over to a newer phone. I think it makes it more grippy, and I think it just feels and looks better, in my opinion. Not everybody thinks that, but quite a few people like the squared off size, and it's more of a classic look for iPod and iPhone, I think. And so expect that, and then larger sensors for the camera. So that means they could pick up more light or potentially have a higher megapixel count. We don't really know for sure. And then new colors. So instead of this midnight green, the latest rumor is there will be a navy blue, but that rumor may or may not be true. We'll have to wait and see by the time these actually release. So when the iPhone 12 and 12 Pro come out, we should know that, obviously, but Apple will probably do something different than midnight green. This is space gray, but they may do something different than midnight green and instead have a navy blue or something like that. I think the navy blue renders that you've seen online look really good, and so hopefully we see something like that. And then faster Face ID, Apple keeps working on that, and maybe a smaller notch. Now, the notch has never really bothered me, but I get comments about it all the time, so if they can optimize the sensor to shrink the notch or get rid of it entirely, I would love to see that. The under the screen fingerprint sensor would be nice, but that's still up in the air. So I haven't really heard anything on that. So expect this same sort of size display, maybe a little bit bigger if they can shrink the bezels, but in general, expect a very similar experience, but a new redesigned outside body for this phone. Now, I don't normally cover rumors a lot, but we have some pretty good information on the iPhones and the iPads, so I think we're getting closer to the finalized version of what Apple's going to do. We'll know for sure, of course, closer to events such as if they do anyone in March and then maybe later in September, and we'll know more details then. But as far as the iPhone 12s, Apple actually has to get them done pretty early in the year so that they can ramp up to create millions of them to sell to the public. So some of those designs are pretty finalized. I'm really surprised the iPads Pro didn't get released, but it seems like they wanted to change up some things. So I would love to see that in the iPad Pro with time of flight and things like that. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Of course, I'll link this wallpaper in the description. It's an exclusive wallpaper that's a little bit early, and I'll link it in the description for you as well. If you have any other questions or comments, let me know in the comments below. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.